Hello everyone, I'm Commend and I'm here with Alan, one of the Chinese casters, just for VCT CN, been around for a long, long time. And I'm here to talk to him today mostly about Edward Gaming, but also about Valorant casting and just Chinese Valorant in general. Should be a fun one. How are you doing? You doing well? You doing good?
Yeah, it's just it was like I'm recovering from the post champions period because it's like crazy. It's kind of like a dream, and when that thing ends, you need to have a long time to recover from that. I guess yes, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's always good. Just chilling. And you're working
Mm,
Ascension at the moment, so not
yeah,
quite done yet, but
yeah.
cool. All right, I want to start right at the beginning of kind of your journey. How did you first get into esports?
Well, my esports starts with another title is Overwatch, and it is back to like 2017, and when time is back in 2017, I'm just like working as I'm a worker. I'm white collar worker at FMCG industry, and casting is kind of my hobby and things I want to try during the first year. And after I think like half a year, something like that, and I have the chance to be like have the opportunity to be on the casting desk of Overwatch League. And after 1 year, I turned into a full-time freelancer in esports. And well, that's what happened when you start in this industries. Not really very not really sure about where you are going, and you just started. And maybe after 2 or 3 years, I'm quite stabilized, and I have my own path of growing esports. I cast Overwatch for like around 5 years, and in 2021 I start getting into Valorant casting. Actually, since 2020, because that's the time that this game has been published. And but in China, we don't have something like casting in before 2021. And after 2021, I'm starting to slowly shifting my focus from Overwatch to Valorant, and here we are. Like, yeah, it's already like another 5 years in Valorant now. There's 3 or 4 years, should I say?
Yeah, it goes so quickly, doesn't it? So
Mm,
in 2021, you're casting Overwatch. Were you,
yeah,
and you're kind of getting into Valorant, were you watching the early international Valorant tournaments? Were you watching like
yeah,
champions? Yeah. So you
yeah.
saw
Of course.
tens winning and, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's still like it's not only about the international event. I actually watch some kind of like really banana story like First Strike Ignition series, which really happened really early. I think it's in 2020, that even before VCT era. And of course, still remember that it feels like years today that 4 years ago that Tens wins the first Reykjavik. I don't know. It feels like really really fast, and it still feels unreal. Like that's how far that we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite players or teams at that time from other regions?
Well, for me, at that time, or now, or right now.
At that time, back then when you were watching
At
the
that
early
time,
ones.
okay. At that time, to be honest, I'm my favorite player now is Bolster, but back then I didn't know Bolster that well, to be honest. Like back in 2021, I really like Scream, because Scream is one of the really big names that you can ring up in the scene. And it feels like he have a very good personality, and etc etc. Yeah, and at that time I have some opportunity, like I think back in 2022 in Istanbul, and I have some opportunity to have a remote interview with him doing champions. So it feels me that he's a very good person, and he has very good personality, and well, good shooting.
Yeah, always he always goes for the one taps, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you remember the very first Valorant event that you casted?
The very first, I mean, the first several events is I just stream it on my personal stream account on Bilibili, which in China, and it's very early. I think it's like Ignition's. I can't even remember that Ignition series and First Strike, which is even earlier. But anyway, I casted both of them not every match, but some final several matches, especially in NA and Europe, because these are two regions that is really the powerhouse back then. So yes, I still remember that some early, when Hiko is still playing, that that there are that Asuna is first appearance on stage or something like that. It's still like it's really like Asian now.
Yeah. So when you're watching these tournaments, you're seeing that Valorant's getting really popular, in the
Mm-hmm.
West. Did you think it had the potential to reach that same level in China?
I always think it has the potential in it because if it is a game that is really popular in the Western world, whether it's in North America or Europe, it means that this game is inherently a good game. That is it. And when something is good, it has the most important thing that is a good core about the playground or something like that. The gameplay itself is very good, and that thing should be copied in all regions. And even though there will be differences from differences, there will be the preferences from different from everywhere around the globe. But I guess I still feel that it definitely have the potential to be popular in China, and even though it's still very early.
Yeah. So Valorant's getting popular, and then it starts kind of people playing it in China. Teams start forming, and Edward Gaming, they come in pretty early and make a team. Did you know any of the players when they formed the team? Were you familiar with them when they started on Edward Gaming?
Yeah, to be honest, that Edward Gaming have collected some player like in during 2020 and 2021, and back then I don't know them very well, but still it looks for me that it still rings a bell that when I every time I saw Kankang's profile, and I remember one time that he belongs to RNG, and later RNG disbands, and somewhat like EDG get him into this team, which is really a big step and really means everything that afterwards. So back then, I because you know before the real publication, the publishment of Valorant in China, everything is going really quietly and some kind of underground, and yeah. And before that, a lot of things is going that just in a very small circle, maybe mostly including the players and coaches. And yeah, it still feels like it's on the water. And I'm watching some games. I know some names is popping off in Chinese scene, but not really in really official team or event. Yeah.
Yeah. So because it's not officially released at that time, did they have to use VPNs to play? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. They have to use the boosting and the VPN, some sort of like, and to to play on the Asian server, mostly like in Hong Kong server or something like maybe Japan or something like that, Singapore. And they try to find any possible opportunities to get practice, to have some screens or something like that. And even like I still remember one time like it is something like related to Simon, because Simon is really showing good this year. That people found out that back in I think in 2020 that or 2021, so Kang once faced off Simon in opposite teams, and in I think it's in challengers or something like that, or something like a community match that in the Southeast Asia, something like that. And it feels like that is really like difficult time or dark times for Chinese players. You have to uh, get every chance that you have, get every time that you have to get some practice, get proper matches, get proper teammates, and get proper your get proper matches to practice on. That is a really difficult time.
Yeah, that it sounds like they went through a lot just to play, but
Mm.
it paid off in the
Yeah, that's
end,
true.
obviously.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of early Chinese tournaments, and eventually EDG are the best, and they get picked for the East Asia LCQ, which I think you casted.
Yeah, I actually cast that match, and I still remember that when, they are really like one step close to get into Istanbul, and it feels like, because I think that chance is really means something for Chinese Valorant, even it is not really published in China yet. But it still feels like very important. I think for EDG themselves and for any other teams and players, because we all know that except from EDG, other teams have very little chances, and especially when we saw that K1 failed in that event, we know that EDG is the only hope that can go through that and can get into champions. So that tournament is something like that before dawn you see something that ignited the passion of the players, and you can see that the players themselves, I mean from EDG, that the players from themselves are very motivated to do something. And even though that back then no one will ever know that even if this game will be like really a thing in China back then.
Yeah. Did you, before the tournament, obviously they were the best team from China, but that was the first time they were going up against international competition. Did you
Yeah.
expect them, because they won it without dropping a single map, which at the time was crazy. Did you expect that going in, or were you thinking like that could never happen? Or
Like you mean 2024 champions, right?
in 2020 in the East Asia LCQ?
Oh, it's there. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that tournament is something like how to say, because this is the first time that EDG has ever entered an official event like or qualifier or something like that. But before that, we only see something like a community match, and before that, we don't really know how that EDG is compared to other East Asia teams. But we do know something that from screams like okay, they're doing pretty well. They can have a fair chance between most best teams in Asia, but it's very difficult to predict. For us, I think after the first, I think 1 or 2 matches, it feels like I think EDG have a fair chance to do that. They have the ability, they have the potential, they have a very good mechanics and also a very good macro play. So I think after 1 or 2 matches, it feels like it could be real. But still, since there is only one slot, so it's still it's really not that sure. And we all know that in that match, in that event, besides EDG, there are also some very good teams like Onslayers or something like that. And we know that you can't really take something for granted, and so we wait and see. But yes, and I think after the first after the debut, after 1 or 2 matches, we saw that EDG have the ability to get the slot. Yeah.
Yeah. When it happened, when they qualified the champions, because a lot of people in the West over here were saying this is amazing, Chinese team first. But like you said, at that time, Chinese Valorant was still very much, underground. Was it talked about much on social media in China, or was it still like,
To be honest, I don't think it's really that much, because at that time the only players that in China's on Valorant is working through is playing on the Asia server or something like that. So at that time the player base is very slow. It's very small. It's a very small community, and the people are talking about them, yes, but only in the very inner circle. So that means they have very little, songs outside of this circle, outside of this very small community. So back then, I think EDG have some pressure, but not that much. And I also know that they do get some composure after they get the slot to champions, but not that much either. So for me, it was something like, they silently grow and they silently that get the chance, and still we don't know that how much this game could be, and because the players are not there, the audience is not there, so the community is not ready for that yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then they
Mhm.
went to champions. They lost both matches, but they were pretty close. And obviously Smoggy subbed in for life and things. So it was,
Yeah.
we didn't really know how good they could be. When you watched those matches and casted those matches, how long then did you think it would take China as a region to catch up to everyone else?
If you are talking about like get the first world champions, international event champions, actually, my estimation is like 3 to 4 years. after like 2021. Because I'm kind of like pessimistic person because I don't really like think. I do think like there is some gap between like China and other regions. We can see that EDG is still very young, and we also know that this community is really like immature, and we don't even know when this game will be officially published in China yet. So a lot of things, considered. I think 3 or 4 years is some kind of like, uh, well, my way of thinking or predicting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then, Champions goes, they go out of Champions and they get to lock in the next year, and EDG and FPX get invited. And they played a really close match against 100 Thieves and probably
Yeah.
could have or should have won. If they did win that match, do you think they could have gone on a run like they did in Tokyo?
I don't know, to be honest, because I do think that yes, that is something like really close match. I still remember that Pearl that when Bang like shot through the smokes and
Oh,
just get a critical kill. I still remember that scene, but I don't know because for Locking it's a very thriller movie. Like it's a single elimination bracket, and every team you met, it's a do or die situation every day. So I think for EDG, it's still not mature back then because there are a lot of problem on their mental. They are not really prepared for the match. They are not confident enough, and I think confidence is very important because back then they still feels like in every match they feels like an underdog, and in every match they feels like their opponents is way like stronger than themselves. It's natural. It feels natural because before EDG no one has ever done that. They are the pioneers, so it feels like very natural for me, and I think it's very natural for them. So I don't know, like I could predict a miracle run back then, like in 2023 locking, but I would rather not because it doesn't feel like realistic for me.
yeah. And then, so they go out of lock in first match, unfortunate, but
Yeah.
then get to Tokyo, and that was the big breakout tournament. But when they lost to T1 in the first match, it was close. And then when they were playing Na'Vi, did you think that they were just going to lose to Na'Vi as well, and it would be another tournament without a win?
I think a lot of people predicted that they will just drop out of the group stage very early and lose to Navi because Navi is still really looking good back then. Navi is really strong. I think at least compared to this year. Yeah, um, and back then when they lose to T1, it is close. I personally casted that match, the first match to T1, and still feels like it could be anyone's game, but anyways, they lost it and they go into the loser bracket and they still haven't got their first ever international win. Anyway, like there are pressure, I think, and but sometimes I think that's what we would call like you have to accumulate your experience, your learning curve is there. You can't escape too much. Sometimes it is really hard. Sometimes it feels like feels really like terrible during the learning curve. But I think before that match, to be honest, I remember that I don't really believe that EDG could win the game, and I don't believe that they could win it that easy because for that match, I think EDG wins that match very that persuasively because they win that match really grateful, really beautiful, and Kong Kong is really showing his dominance on operators, and I think after that, people come to know that this is the person you should look out for every time you face with EDG. So yes, I think it's still quite a surprise for Chinese audience, for anyone to believe that this is the time that they got their first international win.
Yeah, that was. I remember watching it. It was just amazing.
Yeah,
And obviously in the rematch against T1, that's when Kang Kang hit this one.
yeah.
And that was crazy. But that photo that was taken when he hit that pose, it went pretty viral on Twitter and Reddit over
Yeah, I
here.
know.
Was it the same in China? Was that like an iconic thing in China or no?
Yeah, of course. of course, very, very natural, very like 100% certainty. Because it's actually I sometimes like I think EDG is some kind of really gift to Valorant China, the whole thing, because they some they somewhat like a miracle. It still feels like a miracle to me that like in 2023 when it was Valorant is still not a thing in China, and when there is very little audience, very little players, and they not only get their first international win, but also ended up with a very satisfying result in Master Tokyo, and they also, and I should say, Kang also showed very stellar, performance during that event, and his personal performance not only like win over the international audience, and I do know that, especially in Japan, but also in China. I think like, to be honest, I think half the audience of China right now like started watching Valorant games since that Kang shows his dominance, because he's just so attracting people. And it's very natural because on the stage he's very aggressive with a very oppressive game styles and very good mechanics, and also he has very good personality, and personality that included in two things. The first is he's really like showing off on stage. He's really enjoying the vibe. It's some kind of like, I can't imagine too many like Chinese players have that, because most like Chinese players that I met is they are really shy. They don't want to show too much of their personality on the stage. But Kang looks different. And the second part of the personality is he's really humble. Like when he's like facing media, or when he's facing like casters like us, he's only like 18 like back then, and he's like mature like he's like 30, and he's like treating any of us like very polite, very humble, and it's like he's the perfect person to attract the first batch of Valorant China's fans. So I feel like yes, it's like a dream.
Yeah. So they beat T1. Kang is playing
Mm-hmm.
insanely well. They then lose to Liquid in the upper bracket of the playoffs, and then beat Loud, which was a crazy result because they just won the Americas League. Um,
Yeah,
I think that was the moment where a lot of people went, oh, these guys, this is not just a fluke. They're actually really good. Was that the same kind of, did you
yeah.
feel the same? Yeah, yeah. That makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
because like when you get out of the group stage, and you are not the top seed of the group, so people will say that, oh, okay, the T1 is really bad, so it's okay, you win. But it's you just step out of this group because another Asian team is really bad. Some words like that. It's normal, but I think facing Loud is really like miracle or something like that, because Kang looks really high up on Aspas, and he actually said one time that he really some kind of afraid to facing Aspas, because back in 2023 locking, I don't know if you know the story, that during, even though that he didn't have the opportunity to face Loud in any official match, but in scrims they screamed with Loud many times, and Aspas is really showing great during that screams, and and Kang knows Aspas back then, and he looks really high on Aspas. So I think facing Loud, after facing Loud matches, I still remember that Kang like cried out on the stage, like he's really a different person from when he's like winning the first round winning T1, winning over T1, winning over Navi. He always looks really happy, really confident. But when he's winning over Loud, he's crying on stage because there are a lot of pressure on him, on his shoulder, because that is the person that you looked up on. That is your idol, and when you faced on the stage with your idol, it feels different. Yeah, and I think that after beating Loud, not only like us, like casters, that audience, or anyone on the community that realized that okay, EDGs really could be something that maybe not this even, but in 1 or 2 years. But also like Kang Kang himself knows that okay, you are not you can stop like just looking up upon them because you can be one of them. I think that's what that lesson taught him. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that story about Aspas. I didn't know he looked up to
Mm.
him so much. That's really great.
Yeah, yeah.
And they almost beat Paper X in the next round, up
Mm-hmm.
11-4. I was because I'm a big EDG fan, so that was very sad
Yeah.
watching that. If they'd have beaten Paper X, how far do you think they could have gone in Tokyo?
Wow. I It feels like if I want to say that in Master Tokyo they can go to like grand finals, I think it's a little bit too stretched to be honest. But yes, because I think Paper X is some kind of EDG is another look in the mirror because they are really aggressive. They are the most aggressive team on the world. And back in 2023, EDG is as aggressive as Paper X in somewhat in a lot of times. So I think EDG is really having a difficult time in 2023 facing like similar teams, like aggressive teams and even teams with even more aggressive like than EDG themselves. So I think EDG is really have some troubles in that year, and I still remember that back in Pearl when they are facing Paper X, that Paper X just going to B side again one time after one time after one time, and EDG can't do anything. They still lack the tool of to do some adjust on the fly, on the stage, in the match, and even sometimes you need to do some of that, adjustment without a coach. I think back in 2023, that's the most important, the most, how to say the short, the short hand of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, even though they went out of the tournament, but then
Hmm.
Valorant did officially release in China.
Yeah.
Thinking back to a year before that when it was all underground and they hadn't been to an international tournament yet. What was the change like going from that to, like you said, half of the current audience coming in, repping EDG and playing Valorant? What was that change like?
You mean the release of Valorant in China, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it means a lot because for us, we know that 100% sure that after the release, there will be a lot of invest on the event, on the organizer, on everything, and you will see a lot of publishing in the game itself and in the esports side. So for us, we know that this is the time that this soon will go big. We don't know how big it will be. We still don't know how big it will be in China, but we know it is a very good sign for all of the players because back then I think the players are some kind of like they are paid very low, to be honest. They don't and compared to the salary, I think the most scary part is you don't know how your life will end on because if this game won't be published in China, there is very little chance that you can have a very good career. And I think after the game is really published in China, they know that okay, this is something that I can fully invest it myself on. Because back in 2020 and 2021, a lot of Chinese players and teams are really swinging, and they don't know like if I should invest really heavily that into this game, into this title, because for players or for teams, they have to think about a lot of things. Yeah, and I think after the publishment, after the official thing, I think it's a done thing that people that in this scene will know that this is the time they should like do their best and throw everything in it. And for players, I think it's also a very important sign. Like you have to do something like, uh, during this year because after this year there will be a lot of players that are coming up, and you will be like to have a very fierce competition with them. So if you are not good, you will out. So it's very simple.
yeah. So we go into the game officially gets released, and then the next Champions rolls around 2023, and EDG had a pretty
Hmm.
similar performance, but there was a different Chinese team that kind of shocked the world at Champions, Billy Gaming. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'd say most people, almost everyone, said that NRG and Fnatic were going to make it out of that group, and just very
Yeah.
easily. Did you have any idea that Billy were going to be as good as they were, or get a win against NRG?
No, absolutely no. There's no way. I don't think anyone like I don't even know that if the BLG themselves have how much confidence in them, because every players will have like 100% confidence that when they enter the event, but you know that this event is not for you, to be honest. Everyone knows that you are the underdog, and everyone expects you to be knocked out in the group stage. But I think that's the how to say that's the charm of esports. That's the charm of Valorant, and you don't know what the final outcome, as long as the game is there, as long as the game hasn't ended. So BLG really shocked the entire community, and before that, before the champions of 2023, we know that EDG is good. Yes, EDG is showing really good, but we also felt in China that no team can have a match with EDG, that they are not even close, and that means we are so-called like one team region. And I think that back then a lot of people that, especially if you are from Western world, that they think also this kind of patterns, because that's what we would define a weaker region. Like you have a really super team, and apart that you don't have anything that can compete in the international event. But BLG really shocked everyone, and they not only win one match, they win two times in a row, like facing NRG, and they also have some performance in the top 8. So it feels like that for a team that have their debut in champions and they got into top 8, it really feels like it shouldn't happen, but it happens anyway. Yeah, it's really like beautiful for BLG themselves.
Yeah, that might have been one of the craziest matches of Valorant. I mean,
Yeah,
when Yosemite got that clutch on bind, that was just
yeah,
ridiculous. But anyway, back to EDG. Boostio made a lot of comments about China over the years, but especially before that Champions, it was kind of like they'll never be better than NA and things like that. Um, did the Chinese community take that very well? Was it just banter to them, or was it something more serious?
I think it's like some people will just treat it as beef, but there are a lot of people will also treat it as some kind of hostile. Should I say that they feel like, oh, you why you don't respect us, why you don't like really looking seriously at EDG's performance or something like that. Yeah. I think that's part of esports, right? Like when Boostio is beefing, like that's what he would like to see. Like that is what he's doing. Yeah, he wants to get some attraction, and he get what he's want. Yeah, and I think EDG themselves have some opinions on that, but not very strong, because they in 2023, in late 2023, they are mature enough to to treat anything like from community, from other players, from other teams, uh, you know some like maybe something good, something bad, they treat it very very like softly, sternly, and they do it in their own way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so EDG, went on, lost to Loud, but still placed, fifth, sixth, had a great performance. Were the Chinese community happy and still proud of EDG for that, or did they expect higher or want higher than they did in Tokyo?
I think most people would be like satisfied when in 2023 general this year, because champion is a different event compared to masters, because you have the best team, 16 best teams from all over the world, and it means that a lot of uncertainty in that arena, because there are some teams that you never faced, you never screened with, like back in masters. So I think for EDG, like, yes, they got into top 6 because they faced because they defeated BLG, and when they lost to Loud, they stopped there. But um, I think the Chinese community is digesting okay with that, with that result, and the people are still praise EDG for most part. for their performance in 2023, because this is the first year like for Chinese audience to really have a serious look at what Valorant esports could be, and they saw a top eight, one a top six, and I think it's okay. I think it's really satisfying for most audience.
Yeah. So that tournament finishes. VCT CN starts this year, which thinking about
Mm-hmm.
that is crazy that it was only this year. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you, how important do you think it is for the strength of the region as a whole that China has its own official, franchise league?
I think franchising is very important for teams that, well, for teams who enter the partnership program, because if you're not, then it's really sad for you. We saw the story of RA, we saw the story of any other team that, ASE or something like that. But eventually, when you are in the program, in the partnership program, in the franchising, you are the 10 teams that is regularly competing with each other in the same arena time and time again. It means that your strength is really being questioned like week after week after week. And if you're not strong enough, you get dropped out very soon. And there is a pressure. And then you will know that, oh, if I'm good enough to stay that even in the middle pack of this region. So franchising is very important because it gives teams the real chance to say, if I'm good or if I'm bad, and if I should shaking up my roster to find younger talents, or should I just to stick to my roster and wait for them to grow? I think it's this year we saw a lot of difference in China. Like this is the first year of visit China, and we saw a lot of teams that switching rosters from between stage 1 and stage 2. And to be honest, very shockingly, like most team shaking up their rosters between stage 1 and stage 2, and that's really good. Like EDG is really benefited from it. BLG is, GDG is, and it feels like wow. Like when back in 2023, November, December, because that's the time that when franchising is settled and teams are finding their talents, finding their first active roster. But after the first half of the year, and teams are graduating to know that no, this is not enough. This is not good enough. You have to do something to make sure that you have a chance to competing in the playoffs, to competing for champions or something like that. And so that's the power of franchising for a region.
Yeah, and the viewership for VCT CN was
Yeah, of
incredible this
course.
year. So
Yeah.
I think it's been amazing for China. And EDG at the start of the year they implemented a few changes in their playstyle, especially Kang, who started using the op less and trying to rifle more. Has he talked at length about why he wanted to try and change up his playstyle?
I think Kong Kong is a very team player, to be honest. His personality is not the person that he has his own play style. I think he still really loves OP to his heart. Like there's no way that he don't like, but he also knows that if you want to win something, if you want to win anything, you have to play with your team. So after the 2023, they have a very stellar year with OP, with operator, with aggressive play styles, and but they also know that okay, back in Master Tokyo, back in 2023 LE Champions, the reason that we lost is we don't have other play styles. We don't have other tools in our toolbox, in our weapon storage. So that's the reason that I think EDG is really trying to, like you said, this switching things up. They try different things. They try different play styles, and I think EDG Kangkang's change from operators to rifles, I think is also part of it. And I really couldn't say that it's really smooth because they went through a lot. They even have a really dark period in VCT China. So I think yes, that's the price you have to pay when you want to experiment something.
Yeah, and like you said, that dark period was kind of during Masters Madrid, going into
Mm-hmm.
VCT China and things.
Yeah.
So and Masters Madrid, they obviously, I mean, they beat Paper X, which was great, but lost to
Yeah.
Genji, and then the Loud loss, which was pretty devastating. 5-26. I've heard a lot about
Yeah.
that. How
Mm.
bad? How bad was the backlash that they got online?
Like a lot. Uh, I don't know. Like Chinese audience is not really good at really comforting people, especially when it comes to players, because I think um, Chinese audience is really growing fast, and during that fast growing period, a lot of different opinions comes in, and a lot of new faces coming in. I mean, in the community, and some audience are not really familiar with the process of changing up, switching up, and they can only see that you get a 5 to 26. That's it. It's like horrible. Hey, and I'm not only like the community, even the players from EDG themselves still remember the scoreline exactly. Like, I just saw the documentary for EDG that the players mentioned themselves that they don't want it again. No one want that again. Like you lost 2 maps in a row. Like it was something like only 90 minutes, and you just get out of the event. So there's a lot of backlash. That's the biggest backlash that EDG can never get, like in their history in China. Even like because even like in 2023 champions, they knocked out BLG, and they can't go further in LE champions. But people will say, oh, that's the nature of competitiveness. That even when you face your own teams in your own region, that you have to be the best. But in Master Madrid, when you lost to a foreign team, or when you lost to some teams that you have won before, and that the scoreline is really terrible, the backlash is definitely great. And I can't even thinking about the pressure that they have in their on their shoulder. Like it's really bad.
Yeah. Do you think that loss, as devastating as it was, do you think it was important for the team to kind of realize what wasn't working?
Yeah, I think like EDG is really the whole team, and especially the org itself is really pouring resources into it, and the coach is also doing this because like even 2023 is mostly satisfying for the audience, but the teams is not. They always want to get better. They always want to know why they can't go further, why they can't go past Paper X, with better score lines or something like that. And so I think yes, 5 to 26 is really like uh, pushing them. Like you have to do this faster because you can't afford that kind of loss to your players. Because even though that, okay, the goal, even like we presume that the org can, can just ignore and protect the players from the backlash of the community. That I don't think the players themselves can get through that kind of loss again. So I think yes, that is the thing that really pushed them harder to say like you have to work faster to find a solution, to find a new play style somewhat.
Yeah, definitely. And but unfortunately, they didn't do it straight away. Obviously, with Masters
Yeah.
Shanghai, they went out in 2 games there as well. How disappointing was it when there weren't any Chinese teams in the top six, in the top four of a home tournament?
It, it is very like disappointing to be honest, because so this is the first international event of VCT in China, and we know it is very precious, and a lot of no, actually, a lot of sweat and money is pouring into it, and well, we always hope for the best, and but how to say, for the community, I think a lot of people will really want to see EDG can go into top 4 in Mercedes-Benz Center. But for casters ourselves, we do know that this is not really a good time for EDG. Like Master Madrid showed that they have some difficult times, and to be honest, for me, I don't really believe that they can adjust so fast, like in Master Shanghai, because it's not really a long time. And even though that they still have a fair performance in VCT China, that between Master Madrid and Master Shanghai, there's still some kind of not clicking, for the whole team. So, but to be honest, even for me, like I don't expect them to go to top 4, but I don't expect them to drop out of the even so early, like nothing from top 8. Yeah, so it's really some kind of upset. I think for us, for the players, for teams, or for the audience, for everyone, and the backlash is even stronger from the community. It is predictable, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and they obviously needed to change something, and they did with Simon coming in
Yeah.
during Split 2. Obviously, looking back, that was the right decision, but
Yeah.
at the time, did people in the community think that that was a good thing to do?
It was very divided. It was very divided. That even like among our casters, it's really divided. For me personally, I'm because I'm a very like conservative person. I don't really like switching up rosters between during the regular season, and especially like EDG didn't like uh switching up the rosters after Split 1. They after the first match of Split 2, which is really odd to me. Because I think if you want to switch up those, why don't you just come with the new roster as soon as Split 2 started? So back then I was really strongly like not looking good on this change. I think for EDG, I think maybe the better time for them to looking at the roster is when the whole 2020 when the whole year has ended. But team have their own opinion and their own sides of looking things, and they do this. But for the community, it was looked like very divided. Some, one on the one hand, people will say that why you're switching up your roster because like Haodong also did very very good performance back in 2023, and another hand maybe saying like, okay, this is the time we have to do some changes. If we don't, this team there's no go for this team. So it's very divided back in that time in the community.
Yeah, and obviously they did win China, VCT CN's stage 2, but it was close with FPX. And what was your thinking going into Champions? Did you? I mean, I can't imagine you expected what happened, but did you
Yeah,
expect
of
them?
course.
Yeah, did you expect them to make it top 4, or even top 6 again?
I think top 6 is a reasonable like prediction. Like back then for me, because we obviously saw that like even for me that who don't really expected the changes to be that good for the team, I feel like oh after the several matches in stage 2 in VC China and including the playoffs, including a very tough best of 5s with FPX, they didn't win it very elegantly, but they win it anyway. So I think it has persuaded me that yes, this is a good change, and they are clicking, but they are even like in the uphill road, and I don't know how fast they can walk during that uphill, but it is definitely a good sign. So I think maybe top 6 could be a thing, could be possible. But they when things happen, they don't really end up with the top 6. Yeah. So back then it still looks like okay, EDG is back into its best form. But even when we're looking back into EDG's history, their best form is a top 6 in international event. So that's the best estimation most people will do.
Yeah, and finally they got to Champions, beat Foot, really almost nearly beat G2, and then
Yeah, yeah,
beat
yeah.
Paper Eggs. Um, did that like cement for you that okay, they're back, it's okay now, they're not gonna just go out in top 8 in playoffs?
Yeah, of course. Like, because I personally casted the match between EDG and G2, it feels like really close, and like, but there's a little feels of doomsday back then because it was close, and every time like, especially apart from the 5 to 26, most match that EDG lost on international stage is close. Sometimes close to overtime or something like that. So a little feelings of doomsday back then. I don't know what will happen when they're facing Paper X, because Paper X has been the international rival with EDG, and if I believe that these two teams are the most often faced teams that in international event. So it feels like this is it is do or die situation. If you can go past Paper X, you can relax a bit. You have a new fresh double elimination bracket, and also it means that you go past some teams that we're really afraid of, because Jing is back to Paper X. Because when in Master Madrid, Jing is not there. Jing is really some players that popular in China and also have some really big impression on EDG players, because I still remember that I think on Lotus, I think it's exactly on Madrid or something like that. On Lotus, when Jing is attacked, he dropped from he's just flying with statue and onto the seaside, and he kills Kong Kong with OP, and that's it. That's the round, and that's the map. So yes, I think the Paper X match, also according to the players themselves in the documentary, is also the most important match that during the whole event. Like after the Paper X match, you know that this could be our time. This could be the thing. This could be our time that we go further than top 6. We can set new records. We can even go further.
And of course they did. And the next opponents were Trace, who were a team that shocked, I think, everybody.
Yeah.
I saw that you posted that on Twitter that you
I predicted that.
Yeah, you predicted them to beat Vitality, but did you think they'd beat Leviathan as well?
No, I only predicted that they can get out of the group, but as second seed, not first seed. Like, it still like feels unreal to me, like the similar path that between Trace Esports and BLG. Like when you get the first time into the international event, and for Trace Esports, the history of getting into international event is really tough. Like a lot of players in their teams have a lot of the opportunities on their shoulders. Like back in 2023 champions qualifiers in China, they are really close to get into the champions, but they don't. So I guess that is the preparation that they do. Like even though that you haven't got into any international event before, but you have enough experience in China and in best of fives, in best of threes in China. So it means that you have the ability to do something when you are in the circle. So when they are facing Vitality, when they are facing, especially when we're facing Vitality, I can show that they are even more mature than Vitality as a team. They showed better discipline. They showed that they have better control over the whole match, the best of 3. Yeah. And, Leviathan is another thing, because I don't expect Leviathan to be honest, some kind of sloppy. And, I think Trace Esports is really good at punishing it. They're really good at punishing. If you really sloppy, even at a few rounds, like if you really give me chances to breathe, I will just destroy you immediately, like with a few round streak. Yeah.
Yeah, they I actually couldn't believe it when they won that game. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So EDG went on to beat Trace, which I think most people did expect just because of their history in China. And then Sentinels and then Lev. They were all huge wins. What was the game where you're watching it and you're thinking, okay, hang on, they might actually be able to win this thing?
Yeah, I think like after beating the last like snare, the last thing that I need, the last proof that I need for that sort is after beating Leviathan, because I think during the last 3 or 4 teams in the circle, in Inspire Arena, Leviathan is the team that you really need to be careful. And also because after they beating Leviathan, they get a 2-ban in the best of 5s in the grand final. It is a huge advantage. And even though that I know that for me, it feels like half-half, like international best of 5 grand finals, like winners and losers chances. And I also know I'm a friend with Alex, the PaperX coaches, because he always talk like, oh, we are going to win this. If we go through the winner bracket and Pong we lose in the grand final. Yeah, but I still believe that there are advantages that you may lose in the grand final, but it doesn't change the fact that you have that advantage. Sometimes you just couldn't use it very well. And so after beating Leviathan, they have an extra day off. It feels like this could be it. This
Yeah.
should be it. They should have a fair chance, not only a fair chance, a better chance than anyone who can get out of the loser bracket, whether it is Leviathan or Heretics. It doesn't really matter because they are at their top now.
Yeah. And I believe you worked on the broadcast for the first 2 days of the arena days, so the match,
Yeah,
EDG Lev and the lower final as well.
yeah, of course.
What was it like being in that huge arena and casting in an arena of that size?
Wow, it's really different. Like Mercedes-Benz Center is also very large. It's also very different. But when you have a home team that in the arena is like different vibes, completely different, and a lot of Chinese audience are actually like coming from China to Korea to saw the match in person. And even though some of them may not plan it very early, but they do get on the plane and be in the arena in person. And I'm sitting with a lot of fans in China, especially in the grand final with them, and also between the match with Lava Item, because it's really different. You can see that the vibes that the teams gave to the audience and the audience are giving back to the players. And the most important person in here is Kang Kang, because I don't know if you saw it, but Kang Kang, for every map, so he will rest, he will go to the backstage, and he will get back on the stage. Every time he get back on the stage, he will cheer with the audience every time. Like it's a thing. You can't really imagine how much energy can be get from his body, and he asked for the cheer from the audience, whether you're Korean, whether you're Chinese, whether you're who you are, where you're from. He know that he can gain his energy from the audience, and it's really astonishing. It's really like he was born for this, because we all know that, like in Chinese there's a saying for this kind of players, which is uh we call it big players for the big obstacles, or for the big audiences. But he's the person, like back in China, back in 2020, when we don't even have a single LAN or single event in China. We know that he's this kind of person, but it's only like you see it with your own eyes that, oh, he's really, every time he back on the stage, he's asking for the cheer from the audience. He's doing some crowd work, and oh, this is his life work. Like this is where he should belong, and it feels very different, because before I'm only like watching this through camera, and actually I can't see that through camera because that is the time we have a countdown. You don't even really see how the players are getting back from the stage, and yeah, it really feels different.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's like he's just born for it, isn't it? With the
Yeah.
way that he just is on stage and is such a big personality.
Hmm.
And I know when you cast in China, sometimes you have three people instead of two.
Yeah.
Um, is there any specific reason for that, or is it just
Well, I think some kind of tradition, like when it is very important, or very big matches, and I think the organizer would really like. Organizer is actually Tenjin Esports would really like. They want to make it three and make sure that everything is uh, taken to the best standard it could have. Yeah, and the tradition can go very long, like you can see that in Korea it's also have similar things, like, yeah, because Chinese esports have a very deep communication with Korean esports, and some philosophy is similar. Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, that makes sense. And so the grand final, I know you were there in the arena for that. Um,
Hmm.
like you said, so many EDG fans have made the journey over, and with
Yeah.
it being a grand final, what was the atmosphere like with the opening ceremony and the songs and all of that? Was it just insane?
Yeah, of course it is insane. I still I can't say more good for Inspire Arena because it looks beautiful. It just looks beautiful, and it sounds very good with every bit, with every every shot during the games, with every bit during the opening ceremonies. It feels really really good, and I actually swing around the arena like during the best of five, the grand final, and it feels like. Uh, it really not depending on where you sit. Everywhere the vibe is really good. Every audience is uh, really enjoying the time in the arena and the best of five, and it is one of the best of fives in VCT history. And it feels like you are really going up and down with the players, with the games, and the real feeling like when we go into the last map of best of five, when we know that this is the map that will determine everything. It feels like it's okay. It feels like yes, we want EDG to win, but it feels like it's already a very good match. It's a beautiful match. It's a match that you couldn't ask for more. So yes, it's something like it will leave a mark in your memory.
Yeah, that's so great to hear that the arena
Yeah.
experience was really great as well.
Hmm.
Like you said, the grand finals was one of the best series we've ever seen, maybe the best.
Yeah.
What moments kind of stand out for you as like some of the best clips from it, or just like being there and you know,
The best clip that I could ever think is the score that Kong Kong gets through the Guardian on B side. He's pushing on the base, and that is the cement that you are the really top players in the world. Like you are the determined person in the best of five. Like Kang Kang also like mentioned in his documentary, like he still remember that when he's facing Loud, I think it's back in Master Tokyo or something like that. He's using OP. It's on Haven. It's on C side. He's pushing from defender side, and he's facing Sadak. Sadak is waiting there, and he got shot down, and everything just went viral. Uh, like it's very similar. Like there is no difference between them. The difference is it's even difficult because you don't have an OP. You are with a Guardian, and it's a low buy for the team. It feels like it's even more difficult in that example. But uh, I guess you have to make decisions, and Kang Kang also knows that you sometimes you have to do something. You have to try, and even though that you could be like deflamed, you could be like in the community or backlash or something, but it doesn't really matter because that's what you do for your life. That's what you do when you choose this thing for your work. That's what you do when you choose to be a player instead of a caster. Like when you're casting, it's okay. Like you're not really into that because you're not really playing. You're a third party. But if you want to really be either team in that situation. You have to do something. You can't be like just play safe because there's no safe. If you want to play safe, the only way is play like yourself. And I think Kong Kong just play himself. He knows that it could end it just like on the Haven when he's facing Loud, but it could end it the other way, and it ends in the other way. So that's what you do. That for Kong Kong, yeah.
yeah. And just before he hit that clip, obviously Heretics were down 11-4. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
same scoreline as Paper X in Tokyo, and they bring it back to 11-9, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any point during that where you were like, hold on, you were
Yeah,
worried?
yeah, a little kind of feels bad, man, and feels like okay, this could be something like okay, we are so close, but we are not close enough. Yeah, but how to say? Yeah, for me, I definitely I want EDG to win that trophy better than anyone, but at that time I also know that they have tried their best, and like if Kong Kong don't push on that run, and if he didn't hit that shot, I think it's okay for me. I know that they have tried their best, and they have the ability to reach the trophy. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, maybe anytime they have the ability. It's just like some kind of like, I wouldn't say luck. I wouldn't say like it's just possibility, but it's some kind of like, that these two teams, they are both very good at this point. They are both like Champions Trophy level players and teams, and I know that even like EDG, like if EDG really lost that map, it's okay. Like they can get here any like one time. Maybe not this time, one time. Yeah.
Yeah, but then of course he pulled it out of the bag. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an insane moment. I think my favorite moment was probably the Chi ace on
Yeah.
Lotus. Yeah, that was big for me. It's good to see Chi
Yeah.
as well doing well because he's always been one of my favorite EDG players.
Yeah.
Um,
Glad to hear that.
yeah, so then obviously they win the trophy and the emotions are at an all-time high. Smoggy's crying on stage. You've obviously, as we talked about, you followed this team from the beginning. Were
Yeah.
your emotions similar? Were you kind of tearing up when they were winning?
Yeah. I teared up a bit. I'm the kind of person that need time to digest. So I didn't cry out at immediately after they win the match, but when I saw that Smoggy is crying, it some kind of feels like heartbreaking, because for these players it feels like really tough for them to choose this game as career. Like even back then when this thing is not really a thing in China, and they still do it, and even though they don't know where their future will be landed on, and it feels like a long way. And for Smoggy, it also because that he got a lot of backlashes because of what he's talking on the internet or something like that. But we all know that he's really the hardworking guy. That because back in 2021, 2022, he went from Weibo Gaming to EDG. He reached up his role. He is the most flexible person that in this team. He plays every role that in this team to be the better side for this team. So for Smoggy, when Smoggy is crying, it feels like it feels like you can't be. There is no possibility you won't be moved. And also like I think the most complex feeling is when I saw Kang Kang, like he's not the one he was crying, like because back in 2022 Istanbul, when they were dropped out in champions, I'm actually in Shanghai in the studio, but we have an interview, a remote interview with Kang Kang, and I can saw his faces, but I can saw his face, but he can't saw mine, and I'm in the studio, and Kang Kang is tearing or nearly tearing, like he can't even like say a whole sentence because he's too emotional. Because back then he's still very like, how to say, have very high hopes, but also could be beaten down a lot, like for the match. But the difference is really drastic, like between 2022 Kang Kang and the 2024 Kang Kang. Like he's still doing really good. Mechanically, he's doing even better than before, but he's just not that influenced by the emotion that more. He's absolutely very proud of the achievement that he has done, that his team has done, but he's not that easy to be emotionally like struck down by the thing. And I think that is a growth that you can see from a player, that he is a mature person right now, and he's only 20. Like it's unbelievable that you can saw a people that is growing so fast in these 2 years. Like in 2022, it's okay. Like because for now, like standing from now, when we're looking back in 2022, it's okay. You lost. You are just a new person. You are a new team in champions. It's really okay. The only reason that he's really emotional, he can't even spell a whole sentence, is that he feel embarrassed, that he feels like he deserved more. But now he knows that, okay, like this is a thing that we deserved. This is the win that this is the trophy that we should win because we are good. That I am good, my team is good, and this entire region is good. So it's really different visions. Like before, like I think the early stages of any players is really quite tunnel vision. He only saw his personal performance. He wants to click every head. Like I click every head. I win this round, then I win another round. Then I win this map. I win this map. Best of 3, best of 5. But when you like mature enough, you won't have that vision anymore. Your vision is your vision is wider, like a lot wider. That you will see that this is a curve that you have to go through. That even this is a loss. This is a path that you have to go through. That you can't really be stopped here. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kang broke the kill record in that match with 111, which I think is probably it's got to be the best single match performance we've ever seen. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. I remembered. Do you think he is the best mechanical player in the world?
I think right on, yes. I would just say yes. Yeah, because mechanically that he's already very like being afraid. Like if we're just talking about mechanically, like back in 2023, like when Master Tokyo ended, everyone knows that this is the most oppressive OP player that you can ever see, like in every match. And I very doubtly that there will be any player that have a similar style like him, any like snipers play like him because they won't. And mechanically speaking, after that event, it is already like he's in top 3, top 5, something like that. And after this best of 5, after the 2024 grand final of champions, I think it's just make sure that everyone believe that, because sometimes that players need to have that moment like in their life, because like I still remember that when I saw that Seb get the call, using X, like sometimes you have to make the play of your lifetime, and sometimes you have to play a best of 3 or best of 5 of your lifetime. And to be honest, I think this best of 5 is the play for Kang in his lifetime. He won't. He will. Maybe he will get another chance. Maybe he won't. I don't know. But when you have the chance, you have to seize it. Like I remember that the former record set by Texture is in best of 5 is a match that he lost actually. So sometimes it just passes you. If you don't seize the day, you don't seize the day. So I think for Kang, he knows that this is time that you need to seize the chance and do it. And yes, that's the time that you can define a lifetime play or lifetime record that you can do.
Yeah. So we've talked obviously a lot about Kang, what he brings to the team, and we've talked a bit about Smoggy's flexibility. What would you say the other members of the team bring individually, in game and out of game as well?
I think Chuchu really showed a very different look in the documentary. I highly recommend it that everyone who really want to have a deeper learning of EDGs or players or something like that to have a look into the documentary. I think it's after losing to Paper X on map 1, I think, during Champions, 2024 Champions. He really let it out. He really get like a little bit tilted and let it out to his teammates and everyone. And his expression is most about like we can't do this anymore. We can't like afford another 5-26, and we can't afford another loss to this. And we have to switching up things. We have to get it up. And it's really like not often that you can saw that in Chinese players. Because most like Asian players, should I say, like most Asian players, the impression is, okay, if we get tilted, we just sit there. We just silent. We don't talk about things. We don't like let it out like Western players. But I think after this documentary or after that exactly moment, his teammates' impression about Chu, community's impression about Chu, and everyone's impression about Choji will be changed. That he's the player that is could be like tough to deal with, not only on the stage in the match, but also in your team. But this kind of tough to deal with is someone that you needed, especially when it is really like everyone is missed out in the games. Someone need to jump out and to kick everyone's ass to ask them to be get up in the match. I think yes, sometimes people need that person, and I also agreed to you that Chuchu like back in 2020 Istanbul or something like that. He's always the star players, one of the star players, one of the clutchest players in EDG, and that's why that I think he is and he will be the core of EDG for a very long time, because when you can clutch, it means that you have a very rare thing that in your heart as a player. Yeah. And for nobody, it's really refreshing because nobody's really backlash hard like during this year because between split 1 and split 2, and when Simon coming and Haldong is subbed out, everyone is thinking about why you are not out. Like nobody, why you are here, why you are still not subbed out, because the typical thinking of subbing someone out is when you have a very terrible looking on your KD, on your stats, and even like winning champs, like something like that. Some people were still criticizing a lot about it. Nobody, they still think you are not good mechanically. But the recent documentary from EDG that really showed that nobody's macro control of this team is fascinating. That he can not only like doing some prep work between rounds, he also can have a call on the fly very specifically to players, so the players can just shooting heads. So nobody is really stepping up, a huge stepping up, like between split 1, split 2, because before Masters Shanghai, he's really the caller of this team, and after and during split 2 and champions, he's a very good caller of this team now. So I think it's really hard to imagine that what has been going through, because as an IGL, you have to not only doing things in games, you have to do things with your coaches, even after your clock, like you have to prep a lot. And I think it's not an easy way. And Simon, the last but not the least, Simon, I think nobody expect him to be hit. Nobody expect him to be this good. Like when his first match inter EDG is facing DRG, and it's a lost match. And after that match, people think, okay, you are a very good spotter. You have very good skills using when you are at the initiator roles. But people will also think that, okay, this doesn't seems like the solution, the final solution for EDG. And there is even like thoughts about will Simon be the permanent player for EDG in the coming seasons? But I think Simon really like growing fast in the second half of this year, and also like they are KO this agent is really difficult for Chinese players. I don't know why. Like you can really see like good KO players in Chinese scene. I think because of agent pool or map pool or something like that. But you don't see Ethan before, like players like Ethan, players like him, like in China before. And actually EDG have tried like push Smoggy or push Hardong or push anyone into initiators, into KOs, but it doesn't work. But with Simon coming, it works. It works really, really well. And I couldn't say that he's not nervous, because he is. He is definitely very nervous, and even like in champions, that he's some kind of nervous enough to not be able to speak fluently after the match. It's okay. Like it's really natural. This is his first year, his first half year, like into VCT. So I think it's normal. I also think that maybe he's not really the core of EDG. Like, it's okay. Like, it's your first year in this team, but we'll give him time to see if he will become someone that even better than now. Because now he's really good at initiator role, but we don't know if he's flexible enough because patches will change, the meta will change. Sometimes maybe he will have to switch to other roles, but that is left to determine by himself. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You posted on Twitter about something Chichu said during the game in the voice comms,
Yeah.
which was cheer for our opponent if they win. If they win, laugh out loud if we win. Do you think that attitude towards the game helped them deal with the pressure of like a international grand final?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I'm the mental, yeah, I'm the believer of mental things in this, especially in grand final, because if it is group matches, like there will be like skill gaps between you and your team. It's very natural. Like this is the first seed of a strong region. This is the fourth seed of a weak region. There will be gap, and this gap won't be like capped by just mental strong. But when we go to grand finals, these two teams, like Heretics and EDG, they are both best so good, the best team in the world. And then it means like there's very little difference between like skills, like mechanically, and then it is left to determine by mentality. And just like I said, I also watch a lot of TI, like a lot of other titles, and I saw that it happens every time, and especially in the determined map, like the last map, if anyone can jump out of the map, like just have the attitude of win or lose, we just play, we don't care. If you can have that attitude, it means that you are somewhat of just winning before this map, because you can shift your focus from the results from the scoreline to just everyone, to everyone you play, how good you play. You don't care about the outcome anymore. You care about if I do the best that I do. So that's the most important thing. So I think it's very like important, and it's also very moving for me, because I think players some kind of they are very how to say, they are motivated by winning matches. They are motivated by getting everything. But sometimes as a player you have to know that you could lose everything. It's okay. That it's okay to lose. You could lose today, you could lose tomorrow, you could lose the next event. It's okay. You have to accept that you can lose. And if you can't accept this thing, you can't be a player, because no players can win throughout their career. It's not possible. So I think having that kind of mental, having that kind of attitude towards the game is beautiful.
Yeah. I've got a few more fun questions, but one
Mm-hmm.
more, the last, really serious question
Yeah.
that I've got is if there was one lesson to learn, one thing to take away from the entirety of EDG's journey, from being China's only real hope into Champions 2022, all the way to Champions 2024, what do you think that one lesson to learn would be?
I think the most important lesson is not afraid to change, not afraid to change anything. Like sometimes you have to accept that the older version of you is not good enough. The older version of playing styles, of playbook, of gameplay itself is not good enough. And even though you miss the old times, even though that sometimes it means you have to say goodbye to some players or somewhat, you have to do that. It's brutal, but you have to make changes. And if you are afraid of the changes, if you stay still, the time will move away. So the biggest takeaway I think is this: I'm I'm kind of non-believer of change, drastically during seasons. But now I truly believe that sometimes you have to make these moves. If you don't move, well, other people will be. And when other teams, like your competitors, are making moves, it also means that you are behind, we behind. So sometimes you have to make moves, even though it means like brutal. It means like you have to make sacrifices. You have to make someone feel unhappy. Yes, like when they like sub Howden out, when they like have Mago to the head coach, I think a lot of people will be unhappy. A lot of people will feel that I don't understand. A lot of people will miss the old time, the old Core 5. The EDG's Core 5 is one of the longest Core 5 that ever existed in VCT history. But sometimes you have to do that. You have to move on. You have to take the risk to make changes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really a beautiful thing to take from it. And just for some final last quick fun
Yeah.
questions, I just wanted to ask, what's your favorite match that you've ever personally casted, would you say?
My personally casted.
Yeah.
Well, you mean on the stage?
Just
Like
any match, any match.
any match. Any match, I have to say it's I think it's EDG's win over Navi. Like it's their first international win. Like it's still like fresh. It's still like you can't erase it from your head. I don't remember a lot of details back then, but I still remember that uh, all two casters are on the desk and they are just they are not casting really properly or somewhat like, but it doesn't really matter. It's ended and it's come out of anyone's surprise. And I'm home. I'm watching these matches. I'm also casting somewhat like a co-stream it on my own platform. And when I saw it, when it really ended, I don't really feel like anything apart from happy. But when a few minutes after when I saw the post match interview, I teared up a lot because it feels really like difficult for the players to go to this point. Like go through all the doubts, go through all the bad times, go through all the uh, uncertainty of your future, of your career, and you put it into the uncertainty and just do your best to get a win. It feels like unreal. It feels like these players are doing something that I can't do, and that's the time that I feel okay. I think that's the first ever time that I cried out like for a player, for a team, or for a match. Yeah, so it's the most unerasable memories in my head.
Yeah, you're right. There are some moments from that match where Smoggy with the
Yeah,
10 HP clutch on Killjoy and
yeah,
Kang obviously with the op, and it was just incredible. You're right. You're right.
yeah.
Um, and obviously you've been around many players, many coaches during your time
Mm-hmm.
casting. I saw you posted a picture with Tens the other day, obviously,
Yeah.
with his retirement and things. Who are some of your favorite players that you've met at international events, would you say?
I think it's Bolster. I still like fascinated, like attracted by his personality. Like, how to say? I don't know. Like, there is no perfect person, but Bolster is one of the closest person that have ever seen that really that close to that, because I think Bolster is really like he's modest, he's really humble. It was not like he's pretended to be, but he's really like treating every people with honest. There is one very little story during Masters Shanghai that even though the Fnatic didn't go very well during that event, like so Poster is hanging around in Mercedes-Benz Center, but the security is very strict, so he can't really have like face-to-face interaction with fans. But he tried his very best to sign some autographs, something with the fans. And even though it is really not his obligation or anything to that, so yes, I still every time I have met Bolster in. Uh, Actually, I have. This is the first time that I have met Bolster in person, like in Seoul, because during Masters Shanghai, I'm so busy and he's very busy. I don't have time to meet with him. But during um these champions, I met with Bolster in person, and I still feels like he's unreal. His personality is so good, and even like he's the very first person that let me to have an interview with him as a foreign players, and even back then, that very early time, he talks about how he loves the journal, this game, and how he loves his players, and how he loves like Hong Kong he has met. Yeah, so he's a very beautiful person, should I say?
Yeah, he's great, isn't he? And I know Yinsu and him have supported Chinese Valorant,
Yeah,
and yeah, they're always pulling out Mandarin at random
yeah,
times.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's really
And
wholesome.
I kind of imagine that how talented that he has in his language skills. I learning language is so fast. Like the first time that I have talked to him through the internet, his Chinese is just barely, but now his Chinese is really fairly, should I say?
Yeah. No, he's such a wholesome guy, and yeah, we always love Boaster. Um,
Yeah.
and my last question about Paper
Mm-hmm.
X. Obviously, we talked about their rivalry and things, and we know EDG and Paper X are great friends. I saw an interview that you did with Alex and Devi
Alex.
over
Yeah.
tea. That was really nice to see. They seem like really nice people, and I just want to confirm: is that true? Are they as nice as they seem?
You mean the guys
Yeah, the
or
Paper X
or
guys,
addicts?
all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are very nice. They are very nice. Like Davai is looking like. I remember that during that interview. I still remember that what he said that if I'm the Paper X coaches, I would just give the boys 3 months is relax time and going fishing. Paper X person I really like. This does not only like including the players like Alex, also including like Josh or the management. They are really like friendly to anyone, and they are willing to talk, to share, and to really have some conversation with you. And even though that you're that me for them, I'm nobody for them, to be honest. I can't influence too much to Pacific or any other regions besides China, but still it feels like they comes with honesty, and especially for Alex, he's such a gentle, to be honest, because at that time we have a double date with him and Vic, Victoria. So he's really such a good, well, not a husband now, but I believe he will be. But he's really such a good person with very good personality. And even though you always saw him slam his desk during matches, but that's not really who he is during his IRL. Yeah, his real life is really beautiful, and he's really patient. He's really willing to share what he's thinking, what he's saying, and I think Paper X is in very good hand in his management, in his coaching. Yeah.
Great. I love to hear that. Well, that's all the questions I've got. We've talked for a long time. Sorry about that. But
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, it's been really great just to hear, from the CN perspective of the journey of EDG and some other teams as well. So thank you so much for this interview. It's been great.
Thank you. No problem. I'm always willing to share anything. If you have any question about China, about VCT China, you can always come to me. It's okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.